You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 80.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to this week's podcast. This week is part 2 of my very special interview with Cassie Becker, who's lost 175 pounds and kept it off. If you didn't hear last week's podcast, go back and listen to that one first. And be sure to watch it on the Dr. Angela Zechmann channel on YouTube, because it's a video interview and I do show pictures of her along the journey. And while you're over on YouTube, please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. And that way, more people will get to see this important information. All right, so this is part 2. Now, I want to remind you that Cassie started her journey with me at the age of 32 in December of 2008 when she weighed 340 pounds. And yes, that's how long I've been practicing obesity medicine. 15 years now. So Cassie lost the first 100 pounds with my help, and the other 75 pounds came off later. It was a dramatic transformation that occurred over the course of many years, and Cassie learned a lot about herself along the way. In part 2 of our interview, we talk about the psychological healing that was necessary, and she talks about a period of time when she actually got too thin. So without further ado, here is part 2 of our discussion.
That was 2015.
Wow.
And after that, I fell into adrenal fatigue. And
okay. All that over exercising.
And I was very, very sick for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sick. And that's when I got serious about learning about Hashimoto's, which I have had since late teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been controlled with Synthroid and whatever, but with the
So
adrenal
Hashimoto's, just in case our listeners haven't heard of that, it is an autoimmune disorder of the thyroid gland where the body is basically producing antibodies against its own organ. So there are a lot of different autoimmune diseases, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis is where the body is producing antibodies against itself, against the thyroid gland. So the thyroid just doesn't work. So you have to take thyroid hormone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I started really, really learning about it, and I started learning the correlation between inflammation and Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. And so based on my research and my learning, I decided to withdraw all inflammatory foods, which means gluten, soy, dairy, sugar, peanuts, all of those were gone out of my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that once that was gone, would weight come off? Right? But it didn't. My body was stubborn. It didn't do anything with that for 6 months. And the doctor I was seeing at that point, she was just my primary care doctor. She just said, Cassie, when are you going to let me help you?
Oh.
And I'm listening to my body. I'm nurturing my body. I'm kind of patient, stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I can't. I can't. I don't want to do it. I don't want help right now. Mm-hmm. And then one day she and I were friends as well. Mm-hmm. And one day she used an expletive at me and said, "Are you done? Are you done yet? Fighting the battle alone?" Mm-hmm. And And so I agreed. I agreed to let her help me. And at first, I think we started with metformin. And for people that don't have blood sugar issues, metformin is used sort of off formulary to just balance the blood sugar. It doesn't ever, my blood sugar doesn't ever spike. So it's not keeping it down into normal. It's just keeping it level. So that's how she first started. And, maybe a little bit of help, but then she added another off formulary treatment with, I want to say back then it was Trulicity,
Yeah.
which is, and how, I know this is probably not technical, but the way she described it to me as when your body has a certain amount of body fat, and please correct me
Okay.
if I'm not understanding it the way I thought I understood it, but your fat actually becomes its own organ.
Exactly.
It produces its own hormones to protect itself. And basically what she said that this drug did for me was kind of block the communication from the brain to the hormone of the fat to finally let it go instead of fighting against my efforts. So at that point, that's when the weight started coming off very, very fluidly.
Yeah, the Trulicity is one of the medications that's in a class called GLP-1s, and we are just learning so much about the relationship between the GLP-1 is a gut peptide that goes to the brain and tells the brain that you've had enough and that it's okay to release fat, and these medications are diabetes medications to start with, but several of them have since been approved for weight loss. Of course, now you can't get them because they're crazy expensive and they're out of stock. So there's just there's a lot of really new innovations. And I am going to do a podcast on weight loss medications sometime in the next couple of months. But yeah, so that new class of medications is super, super helpful for people who've been struggling to, basically it's helping bring insulin levels down. Insulin is a fat storage hormone, right? And so it helps to bring the insulin levels down and lets the brain know it's okay to lose fat. It's okay to, yeah.
But again, it's not magic.
No.
If you put your shot in and then go eat a pizza and a pitcher of beer and do that daily, you're not gonna reach any goals. You still have to be focused on what you want. And so during that time, that's when I was able to lose the other 100. And I really got my exercise dialed in and focused more on lifting at times and then focused more on cardio at times. And depending on what my body fat was doing, my body fat percentage and my muscle mass and all that, she had an in-body scale. You know what that is. Do you have one now?
Those, yes.
So,
we didn't way back then, but we do now.
No, we didn't. We do now, yeah. And that's a really good tool because that's the other thing people don't understand about weight. Sometimes you have this idea, oh gosh, I weigh whatever, but how much of that is weight that you need? Your lean muscle mass, how much of that is water? How much of that is whatever? And how much of it is visceral fat versus, limb fat? It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
What a great tool that was.
Yes.
And so
podcast a few weeks ago about it was called How Your Scale Lies to You. So I talked about all of that. So anybody who's been listening to the podcast may have heard that podcast before about the importance of body composition testing and just put the scale away. The research does show that once you've lost your weight, getting on the scale maybe once a week or once a month just to kind of check and keep it sort of top of mind is a good idea. But while you're in the weight loss process, you have no idea what's happening by getting on your bathroom scale. And so many people they're so gunning to lose weight that they don't even care what kind of weight they lose. They don't care if it's muscle mass. Like that is really, yeah. So, and The Biggest Loser, you remember that show?
Oh yes. I was a fan.
So dangerous.
I was a fan.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that show and think, oh, maybe I should just do what they're doing,
Yeah, I was like, I want to be best friends with Jillian Michaels.
Yeah.
She'll get me to do this. Yeah, no. I mean, I saw how amazing it was, but I also knew deep in my gut how dangerous it was. So I didn't have any preconceived notions that it was great.
Yeah. So let me show some pictures. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, you really need to watch the video because I have pictures that I'm showing slides of Cassie's journey. So this is Cassie on the far left. You're seeing her in her engagement photos from the spring of 2020, and she weighed 165. Now, you said that your happy place is 175, correct?
And yeah, anywhere between 165, 175. That's my zone. I don't think that people need to have one number. I think it needs to be a zone. Because
I agree with you. Yeah. But then when she got married, she was at 175. And so I have a couple of just stunningly beautiful wedding pictures. They're just, I mean, when you think about how far you've come, like there's on the left is her when I first met her in the office at almost 340 at that point in time, and then down to 165. Like, it's really amazing to me just to see the personality show through too, because when you were so heavy, like you had a personality, I would call it a sweet forcefulness about you. I would say like you were not going to be perceived as weak or anything like that. But you were also kind and gentle, you still are, but then to just see the whole personality shine through once you're out of that, once you've lost that weight, it's just awesome. So, but then you had some periods of time where you almost got too lean too. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. So,
I'll show those pictures in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2019, April 2019 is when I hit 200 pounds lost. And
maybe I will show that picture. Hang on here.
Yeah. And what happened there is I got to 160 and I was like, I want to hit this goal.
Okay.
Of 200. And so what happened is I was too aggressive. And it was not healthy and it wasn't sustainable. That's the thing that people have to figure out. Where is your happy place based on what it takes to live there?
Yes.
Because what it took to live at 150 for me was 2.5, 3 hours in the gym every day.
Oh, wow.
Maybe Sunday is a rest day. And when I'm talking about dialed in nutrition, I'm talking it was every bite of anything was weighed and measured, and there was no living. That was my only focus.
Yeah, there's no room in your brain left for anything else to be that lean. I had a period in my life where I went through that phase too, and it was like I was weighing and measuring every ounce of food. I was in the gym, at least an hour a day, and I actually was in a competition, like a figure competition, And that's just absolute insanity to live like that. It just,
Well, it makes the rest of your life autopilot, and you kind of have to check out of the rest of your life
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And it, and I had family members commenting to me that I was looking too thin and gaunt, and
Mm-hmm.
um, those sorts of comments. And I tended to agree with them. But, the other piece of this puzzle is that's kind of at the tail end of my previous marriage.
Mm.
And so because that was not great, I focused 100% on me. Of course, my children too. They didn't just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my extra time, anytime I had, was focused on me at the gym or counting my food or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not healthy. There has to be balance in life. And
Yeah.
that's what I found. And that's why that zone for me is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that 165 to 170. So go back to the slides here. Uh, let's see. Her. Yeah, this is a picture from September 2019, and you're right around 160 at that point in time. And I think that's 160, 175 on your wedding date looks really good on you. Like you just look happy and healthy and vibrant. So yeah, it's great. Yeah. Okay. So I have another picture here of you right now. You said you were kind of struggling. You'd been struggling a little bit.
Yeah. So
This journey is marked with periods of time where life hits the fan and things happen, and it's never perfect. I always say, I have another podcast titled "The Messy Journey." Like this is a messy journey.
and it's not linear.
No.
It's not linear. There's no part about health and wellness that's linear.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really good thing to point out. Yeah.
yeah. And so of course, 2000 separation was August of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
2020, I met my amazing husband now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, COVID hit.
Yes. Ugh.
The world shut down.
Yeah.
The gym shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very hard
Mm-hmm.
on me because I hate to say this, I'm not an outside girl.
Mm.
Inside,
Yeah.
I like I like the controlled space.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like a casual walk outside. I'm not saying that I don't do that, but focused exercise for me was indoors
Yeah.
at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gym shutting down was very hard. And there's also something to be said when you get into a relationship that's wonderful and fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
there is that tendency to gain that happy weight,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, and so I definitely was happy, and I did, combined with COVID and everything shutting down. He and I, you know, it's like we knew each other for forever, although
Mm-hmm.
just meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was some happiness weight there.
Mm-hmm.
And then my very best friend of um, 32 years died of cancer,
Oh, 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 I'm so sorry.
fall of 2020.
Oh.
And at that point, also, Brian and I discussed getting pregnant. And so, of course,
Mm-hmm.
that takes on a whole nother level, body wise. And it didn't happen for us, which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it did wreak some havoc,
Mm-hmm.
uh, body wise for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just the stress of losing my best friend and COVID, all of those things together
Yeah.
I want to say my heaviest in this period of time was 236.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm back dialed in, and I'm almost there.
Yeah.
I'm almost to the happy place.
Yeah.
So,
Ah, awesome.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's important to understand that long-term weight loss is going to have some ups and downs. And there's
Mhm.
nothing that's pretty normal. That's like, it's not going to be a graph and then you're down. Like it's going to
Oh,
boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. What we want to make sure of is that it doesn't go like you would never want to go all the way back up to 350 and then have to come back down again. So what do you
yeah.
think happens for people, if when they gain all their weight back? I have some theories about like what's going on psychologically when that happens. Have you experienced that before or felt like you were heading that direction?
So I think thank thank God I didn't go to that place. I
Mhm.
didn't allow myself to go all the way back, but I think it's because there has been so much emotional and mental changes um, that I've been able to do. Therapy is huge
Mm.
in this process. If you can find somebody um, who understands weight loss, addiction, any of those things,
Mhm.
that's better. But anybody who can help you just break down some of those limiting beliefs of ourselves, emotional traumas that need to be resolved,
Mhm.
huge piece to this puzzle, because a lot of people, and I feel like I was there after college, um, a lot of people use their fat and their body as a protection.
Mhm.
Um, it becomes nobody will look at me, so I'm safe. I'm
Mhm.
just going to hide over here.
Yeah.
And so I think there is some mental safety for people who've dealt with trauma
Mhm. Yeah.
in that place. And once you are able to handle and deal with what happened, you can let go
Mhm.
and start to heal and understand that you're not only hiding from those dangers, but you're also hiding from your potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took a lot of really focused mental work.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think the people who do the lose it all and then gain it back, they did great. They made a huge accomplishment, but they forgot a huge piece of the puzzle.
Mm.
And that's the emotional and mental work that has to get done. So
Yes.
if you change your mind, it won't happen.
Yeah, I always say the weight loss journey done well is a journey of profound personal evolution.
Yes.
Because when you stop eating, you are sort of confronted with your emotional life. And if
Mhm.
you're not willing to feel your emotions, then then you're going to continue to keep eating. You'll either keep eating or you'll turn to some other, we call it buffering. So you'll either buffer with food or alcohol, or maybe it's Netflix, or maybe it's overworking, or maybe it's Facebook all the time, or whatever it might be. You'll find some other gambling. I've had patients turn to gambling. I've had patients turn to shopping, because they're keeping the weight off, but they're buffering in some other way, and um, they're not doing that deeper work, right?
And it's
It,
all about addiction.
yeah,
It's all about addiction. I mean, I learned from you all those years ago and even before that sugar is a drug.
Powerful drug.
I mean, food is a drug,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always there.
Well, now broccoli's not a drug.
No, broccoli isn't, but it's not a good stuff.
Processed food is a drug.
Yes, exactly right.
Pizza,
And
French
it's true.
fries, yeah.
That's
Burgers, yeah.
a
Cake,
correct statement.
yeah, yeah,
Processed food is a drug.
yeah.
And, you know, understanding that it is an addiction is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're right. A lot of people move from one addiction to the other
Mm-hmm.
because the base of where the addiction is from hasn't been held or handled. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I-
Yeah, so in some, it's not every. There's a lot of different reasons for obesity, but
yes.
in many instances, it is more of a symptom. It's a disease, and would you agree with that? That it's a disease,
Oh,
obesity is a disease.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you think of obesity as a disease, what does that mean to you?
That means I will every day of my life need to wake up and make a decision that I'm either going to be victim to it or I'm going to um, conquer it.
Oh, that is powerful. Wow. Wow. Very powerful. So you wake up in the morning as, I have this disease. Am I going to be a victim or am I going to take power over it? Yeah. Yeah.
And it'll be a question I'll have to ask myself the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so so it's like, I like to think about three legs of treatment for this disease. So there's the medications that will help to rebalance the body's metabolism, right?
Mhm.
There's sort of setting up a whole new routine for how you live your life.
Mhm.
And then there's understanding all of the psychology. And, if there's a food addiction piece, addressing the food addiction and teaching people how to not buffer and how to allow themselves to feel. And what you're bringing up right now is that if there's a past history of trauma, like, we really need to do some much more intense work
Yes.
with a trained counselor, right?
I 100% will stand on a soapbox if needed
Yeah.
to let people know that that's a thing. It's
Uh,
real.
yeah, it is real for sure. So, yeah. Yeah. And so there's these different prongs of what it takes to be successful at lasting weight loss. And of course, one of the psychological pieces of it is recognizing that you're never going to be perfect at it. Like, you are going to have some really off days. And
Yeah.
everybody has off days, and it's okay. So,
Yes, it is. I mean, and you can even have off moments.
mm-hmm.
Just because if you wake up in the morning and I don't know, you make a choice that's not the best choice in the morning, that doesn't mean your day is wrecked.
Yeah.
That means you have another opportunity
Mm-hmm.
whenever you need to eat next to
Yeah.
make a better choice. I like to deal in moments, and that's something that I learning about addiction
Mm-hmm.
is you have to take it moment by moment, not day by day.
Mm,
Because a lot of people get into that mindset that, well, I've already had a piece of toast today. I'm screwed, you
mm,
know, and or I had Cheetos with the kids or whatever. That
mm-hmm.
was one moment. Are
Mm.
you going to let the entire day be ruined by one moment?
Yeah. Such a good point.
Okay, this concludes part 2 of my interview with Cassie Becker. Be sure to post any comments or reflections you have and give Cassie some love. Next week, we'll be back with part 3 of the interview, where Cassie goes into more detail about addiction and she talks about what she did to stay motivated every day. Thanks for listening or watching, and I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.